Hello and welcome to A Book in 5 Minutes. My name is Lindsay Milner and I'm a training and development consultant, and I work mainly with non-profit organisations to help them to create awesome workplaces. While I've been engaged in that work, I have read many books. I've read books on business development, personal development, effective management, and books on thinking. And I thought it might be interesting to share some of the books with you. This week's book is inspired by an event that I've been to this week. I've been to a 2-day conference, and at that event, which a really big headline act, Gary Vee was going to be speaking, and it was that drew me in, obviously. But before we got to see the great man himself, we were subjected to about 8 or 10 sales pitches. Now, I'm not going to say there was no value in these, because I did get quite a lot of useful information from most of the speakers, if not all of the speakers, but there were some really quite heavy sales pitches. It was selling from the stage, which again is fine in itself, but yeah, okay, I'll introduce the book. The book is called To Sell is Human, and it's by Daniel H. Pink. And Daniel Pink is one of my favourite authors. I've already reviewed Drive, which I absolutely love the content of that book. I think that book is so helpful and so useful in explaining the concept of human behaviour. And To Sell is Human, I think, probably also fits into the same level of usefulness. I really enjoyed rereading it and revisiting it. I was prompted because I'd been sold to so much this week. It made me think about, how do I feel when I'm sold to? And it also made me think about, how do I feel when I'm trying to sell to somebody, about my behaviour. And Daniel Pink's book is divided up into 3 sections. The first talks about the background of sales, the history of sales, and how we're all in sales really these days, but we've still got a very outdated picture of the sleazy car salesman in a shiny suit who's trying to scam us out of our money. And in one respect, I disagree with Pink, because it seems as if that model is still alive and well. I've seen several examples of it this week. But Pink says that actually now we have to have a different model of selling, which he then goes on to introduce in the second and third part of his book. The second part of the book is about how to go about selling. And he uses ABC, but instead of the old-fashioned always be closing out of Glengarry, Glen Ross, or whatever that sort of concept came from, it's more about attunement. You've got to tune in to what your potential customer needs, what problems are they facing. You need to be a problem finder, not just a problem solver. Buoyancy talks about your own resilience. How do you deal with how people react to you, and any rejections? And obviously you do come across people who are really rude. And he talks there about being able to take the other person's perspective. Not empathy, not fully immersing yourself into empathy, because you run into a danger then of submerging your own interests, but you do have to be able to see things from the other person's perspective. And the last one there is clarity. You need to have clarity about their situation, their problems, what they're trying to deal with, and how you can help in that situation. The third section talks about some techniques that you can use to improve your effectiveness in selling, whether that's persuading, convincing, trying to get your kids to tidy the bedroom, whatever way you want to move somebody else's behaviour. You want them to exchange money or their time, effort, attention for something you want. And it's important for that to also be improve their life in some way. So there's pitching. He talks about how to pitch, and there's some really useful tips in there, including use the Pixar pitch. So you have like a 6-sentence structure to tell a little story about what the problem is and what happened, how it turned into a problem, and how you solved it in 6 sentences. The second one is using techniques of improvisation, like always making sure that the other person looks good. You know, it's about win-win in a way. It's about helping that person to also look good with what they're doing. And also using a technique called yes and, so you don't dismiss people's suggestions. And the third one is serve. When we're selling, we're always about serving the other person's needs. And that kind of reminds me of what Alison Edgar said. If you have listened to the review that I did of her book, The Secret of Successful Sales, Alison Edgar says that successful selling is the same as good customer service. If it's done right, it's good customer service. So that obviously ties in with how Daniel Pink is describing it. He uses lots of evidence-based, lots of case studies, stories, loads of examples and ways that you can use the information. So I highly recommend this book, whether you think you're in sales or not. I think the book itself is totally worth investing the time in to read. So that's this week's book, To Sell is Human by Daniel H. Pink. If you've read it, I'd love to know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you're in sales, do you think that what I've said of the content of the book would be useful? If you're not in sales, what do you think? Are you persuaded to give it a go and have a read and see what the information in there might do for you? That's this week's book in 5 minutes. If you want to know more, subscribe to my YouTube channel and I will see you next week. Bye.